Hello and welcome to the USA v Honduras Preview Total Soccer Show special. My name is Darryl Grove and I'm joined by the man who was voted Hexiest Man in Richmond, Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. Yes, I am actually six-sided. That's mostly why that vote happened. It's not anything about my physical attraction.
It was a one-man ballot and just I voted.
I'll take it. That's fine.
So we are, of course, here to preview the big Hex game, USA v Honduras. This Friday, it's the World Cup qualifier. The US has how many points so far, Taylor?
That would be, I think there's a lot, and there's zero. They have zero.
It's zero. So this is a must-win game in San Jose, not Hans Jose, against Honduras. Here's the thing: we're gonna preview Honduras later on the show. We're gonna talk about what Honduras do, sort of a scouting report. We're also gonna talk about what we think the US can do to go up against them. Mm-hmm. The one big thing I want to put out there is this is a tougher game than I think the casual soccer fan would imagine.
Yes,
I'm going to call Honduras fourth best team in CONCACAF.
I mean, yeah, I think that's...
Last two World Cups?
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, they've been at the last two World Cups. They have, like, those kind of under-the-radar names that people maybe don't focus on, and it becomes a game of, like, oh, it's, CONCACAF opponent, we should be able to beat them. US is trying to make a World Cup. Like, then if they're trying to compete at the World Cup, this should be no problem. And the reality is they're a very tricky side who have proven tricky in the past, both home and away.
Oh, yeah. But at least we're at home this time.
Yes.
At least we're at home.
Really, sincerely, yes. Given the way things are, I'm very thankful that this is not Honduras away.
So don't sleep on Honduras. Okay, before we get to Los Catrachos, I believe what people call them.
The H. Yep.
The H. Let's talk about the recent updates to the US roster. Monday night, Chris Wondolowski was added to the roster.
This was another situation, it was like within an hour of us publishing the show, right?
Yep.
Like I think I had gotten home and checked Twitter really fast. And texted you, and you're like, oh, of course.
Luckily, I had Gomez the next month.
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
So, I got the Wondolowski update there. So my general takeaway was, okay, I understand he's not popular, but don't panic. There's a good reason for Wondolowski being added to this roster, right, Tyler?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there are like other reasons that we'll get to in a second, but the big one is that Jordan Morris picked up that ankle injury, and then I guess you were telling me basically medical team, which is his father, said you should be subbed out at halftime in this Seattle game. It's not looking good. And
Jordan Morris said, no, I've got a header to score.
Yeah, exactly. And then he stuck in and played on what I've seen written was a bum ankle. Since then, has not participated in training, has been in the gym, according to Jeff Carlisle, so there's that.
Yeah, so this means Morris has not been able for Monday or Tuesday. We're not sure what happened on Wednesday. Was not able to participate in full team practice. You've already got Bobby Wood out with injury. So suddenly you've got Josie Altidore, you've got Clint Dempsey, who it seems is in good shape, but still hadn't played soccer for a long while before the start of the MLS season.
Right.
Why not call in a guy who already lives in San Jose, get him to come and join the roster, just in case Jordan Morris can't go? You don't want to be down to only two strikers.
I'm excited for the future of MLS being all like potential U.S. national team players trying to figure out the schedule for games so that they can play there. Because we've seen that already, right? Like
Bingham was caught up.
And Rowe was caught up for the January camp because it was West Coast and he knew Bruce Arena. So, who knows? Who knows? Maybe that's a way to go about it. Yeah.
As if you're going to treat Bruce Arena like the Grateful Dead and just follow him around the country.
Exactly. Exactly. Some long-term planning, and you got to move a lot, but it could work. It could work. So, yes, I think that's a big reason why is because then you look at the other strikers the United States maybe could have called up, and I know a lot of people then go to like...
Swagadello, I guess, was next in line.
Yeah, but he's playing as a number 10 for New England, so that's not even an out-and-out striker. I know people will say Aaron Johansson or Julian Green, but again, both of them not necessarily getting minutes or consistent playing time with their clubs. So it makes sense to bring in Chris Wondolowski for the reasons you mentioned as well.
I can just say, if you're a US fan, the US needs you now. It needs you to be positive and supportive, and it needs a good atmosphere around the team. And I think complaining about a guy who's been called up is not the way to do that, right? There should be a moment for, if not optimism, then at least positivity.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I disagree a little bit, but I disagree for maybe different reasons. Look, if you are still really frustrated about that Belgium miss, I feel like that's okay. That's part of being a sports fan, is remembering the terrible moments when things could have gone the other way and didn't. It's why we still don't like Torsten Frings. Couldn't tell you much else about his career. I think he played for Toronto. But
and apparently made a lot of amends with like US fans.
Yeah, whatever. Not enough. Well, that's you're playing in Canada. You're not making any amends for me there. So I think that's part of being a sports fan. I'll say for me personally, many times on this show, I would refer to Chris Wondolowski as like a fox in the box, a big man in the box. And that was wrong. Like, that's not what he does.
He's kind of foxy-boxy, but not so much targety. Yeah.
But exactly, he's not a target forward. I think that was the big thing, is I would refer to him as a target forward. We heard about it from San Jose fans. We've watched him this season. He is far more mobile.
He's lively.
Yeah, he's very lively. He's clearly a big leader. He's clearly a big part of that team. And I think, again, if you're exactly. And if you're looking at what Bruce Arena likes, what he values, I think a lot of those qualities point to Chris Wondolowski. So I can understand not liking Chris Wondolowski for those little moments, that one big moment, I guess I would say. But I agree with you also that, like, you can have that, but also, remembering the bad times is part of being a sports fan, but enjoying redemption is also part of being a sports fan. And maybe he comes in when the United States has to get that goal in the 89th minute and does it, and maybe he's a little bit more forgiven as a result.
Okay, so before we talk about the possible U.S. starting lineup, which, spoiler alert, will probably not include Chris Wondolowski. Let's get to our opponents.
Sure.
So we've watched the tape. We've watched many tapes. We actually watched no tapes. It was all on YouTube. So we're going to give you a Honduras scouting report. Okay, I think the first question that you're going to have about Honduras is, how do they play? How do they set themselves up? What is their style? And there are basically two looks, right, Tyler, that we looked into. What do you see Honduras? What have you seen Honduras do?
Okay, I've seen them, nominally in a 3-5-2, but basically a 5-4-1. The most.
I would say nominally a 3-4-3.
Okay, that's probably a better way to put it. Yeah, but and I would say that the one to look at there would be their 0-0 draw with Mexico in the fourth round of qualifying.
So the round before the Hex, which was like September 2016.
Where essentially,
so this was your plan for us to watch this.
Yeah,
and before I was like, why?
Yeah.
Then when we saw it, I said, Taylor's smart.
Yes.
So why did you persuade me to watch that?
Well, it was basically because it was the final game of that round. They knew already that Canada had won 3-1, which meant that I think they were level on points. So Honduras knew that basically they could stay where they were and they would advance. A draw would obviously send them through. A win would obviously send them through, but they couldn't afford to lose a lot against Mexico. So you saw, playing away from home at Mexico, a very defensive, I would say bunkered 5-4-1 formation is what I saw more often than not.
Okay, so if you're not a tactics nerd like we are, you may think 3-4-3 and 5-4-1 are two very different shapes. I guess if you can try and imagine it in your head, right? Imagine the classic 3 defenders, 4 midfielders, 3 strikers. Then the 2 wide guys in the 4 midfield, you pull them back, you got a back 5, and 2 of the 3 strikers, you pull them back into like wing positions, you've got a 5-4-1.
Right.
You've got a 5-4-1 with many bodies behind the ball, but you've also got a 5-4-1 that can quickly turn into a 3-4-3 when you break on the attack.
Exactly.
That's what Honduras were all about against Mexico. They didn't score, they didn't concede, they did look threatening a couple of times.
And they definitely stifled Mexico's defense,
or
attack, which was frustrating for us because we were watching that with an idea of what can the United States do to get through this Honduras defense. And when you watch a 90-minute game and it's 0-0 at the end, the answer is maybe not much. I think we found some things.
We got some ideas which we'll share later.
But they did a very good job of sort of not letting Mexico play the way they wanted to the extent that routinely Mexico were trying to play through the middle and forced into taking shots from 40 yards out, maybe crosses that they otherwise wouldn't have tried, or just getting dispossessed because their passing through the middle was slow and a little bit ponderous.
Okay, but the game I went and watched as well was Honduras' most recent win over Trinidad in the Hex, 3-1. In that game, they played a back 4. It was kind of essentially a 4-4-2. Right? So that means they have 2 different looks. And so the question is, which one do they roll out against the United States?
And my first thought would have been that, of course, if you're going to Trinidad and Tobago, I would say, that's like a different level than the United States, Mexico. You can afford to be a little bit more aggressive. That's what they were at home to Panama when they lost. They were a much more aggressive attacking side. So that was my first read until I saw this roster, and we went through and broke it down by position. And essentially, they have 4 center backs in this. Really, 3 out-and-out center backs. One, Cesar Osegura, who can play left center back or left back, which then points to maybe they're not going to go with 3 backs. Maybe they are going to go with a flat back 4.
I'm almost convinced that they're going 3 centre backs and a back 5.
Right. It's so confusing based on those numbers because usually then you would want 3 proven, capable center backs, and then you'd want maybe a reserve or 2. In reality, the ones that they've been using, 2 of them were dropped? The ones that they used in that Mexico game.
I actually don't know if it's dropped or suspended or injured, but Leveron and Palacios, not Wilson Palacios,
Johnny Palacios,
those guys are not on this roster.
Right. So that's very surprising because I know that would be the next question. It's like, well, if those guys are still there, they used it before, but those guys aren't there.
Okay, so caveat then, it may be a 4-4-2.
Yep.
I'm thinking they have 4 points already. The Hex is going okay for them. They have 4 points. They're in 4th place, right? I'm thinking 3 points maybe? If they lost to Panama and beat Trinidad, they have 3 points.
Yep.
They're in 4th place. A tie away to the US, not a bad result. A defeat away to the US, not a good result. So I see them going with that sort of 5-4-1, let the US come at us.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that makes the most sense in terms of getting that point and the way that they have played historically away from home. It's just surprising to me given the personnel they have, which maybe speaks to an opportunity for the United States, that at the very least it won't be everyone's played together for 30 games on this Honduran backline. They know exactly how to play. It seems like it will be a little bit experimental, a little bit makeshift. That's an area of vulnerability.
Let's also maybe tell our listeners to look out for how Honduras come out and what that's going to mean.
Yes.
Okay, if they come out, if you see the shape...
It's a very key point.
And there's five defenders. There's 3 centre-backs, 5 defenders. You are going to see Honduras sit back and try and counter. They won't come and press the US. They will kind of hold at the halfway line at the highest, and it's going to be a frustrating evening.
If you're at home, put on a pot of coffee.
Yeah.
If you're watching out somewhere, order some coffee. Or a shot of espresso, whatever your preference is. Either one's fine.
Or any other type of shot.
You're going to need it because it's going to be a very slow game. It's going to be a really frustrating game, both because Honduras are going to sit back so they won't be very attacking, and for the U.S., it's going to be really frustrating because it's going to be a lot guaranteed. If Honduras come out into back 5, the top 3 passing combinations are going to be the 2 center backs passing back and forth, US, and then the center backs passing to Michael Bradley.
And here's the key for me. Don't get mad at the United States or Bruce Arena or anyone else just because we're not off to a fast start if this happens. It will be a grind to you've got to find some space somewhere in that Honduran stacked back line and defensive midfield, and it'll be a slow process to do it. Yep. Don't get mad at the US. Okay, we'll talk maybe later about ways to break that down.
Yep.
If they come out in a 4-4-2, no need for the coffee.
Right.
I feel like it's going to be a more open, more exciting game.
And it's a crazy like bipolar Honduran team in that regard because against Mexico they were very cautious. They would definitely break, and they have the pace and skill to break.
That's the danger of them, right? That front 3, very fast, very sort of direct, very attacking when they do break.
And they could have. Is it Talavera, the Mexican goalkeeper? I cannot remember. I apologize.
I'm not sure who's in goal.
In the first 10 minutes, Honduras had a breakaway where Mexico just turned the ball over because they were working it around, couldn't find anything. It was an errant pass through the middle. It was one quick pass through to the forward, and if Talavera, I think it was, isn't off his line as quickly as it is, he slide tackles 20 yards from his own goal.
Yeah.
If he doesn't land that, it's either a penalty and a red card or a goal.
Yep.
And so, you do have that opportunity to counterattack from Honduras.
That's the danger. Yeah.
But that's when they're counterattacking. Against Trinidad, against even Panama when they were much more attacking, there's lots of 1- and 2-touch combination play.
Yep.
It's lots of flicks, a couple of tricks. It's good outside attacking, but then coming inside and cutting in and having good shots. So again, if they are in that back 4 and it's much more attacking from Honduras, then it's going to be an exciting game, albeit maybe more of a nail-biter just because they can be a little bit scary when going a goal.
Well, I'm actually more scared of the counter. So
really?
I'm kind of convinced it's going to be this back 5.
Yeah.
If they're not, I'll eat it on the review show.
Yeah.
But that back 5 means when they break, they have, Houston fans will be very aware, they'll have Kyoto, who's already scored, a couple goals in Major League Soccer for Houston.
Goal of the week, I believe.
Probably Kyoto on the left. Probably Albert Elise at centre forward. Really strong, really fast, really aggressive. He will be knocking you off the ball even when he has the ball.
Yeah, somehow. He's very good at that, yeah.
And then on the right, I'm thinking it's going to be like maybe Bonilla Garcia, maybe Martinez, or maybe even Andy Nahar.
Yeah. And I think the one I would look out for there is Martinez, because Martinez, despite being played on the right, is left-footed. We saw him take their corners from that side so he can hit the in-swingers.
Yeah.
So that, again, points to same thing as Kyoto, getting down the line, counterattacking, cutting inside, getting that shot off.
Yeah.
It points to that's what they're going to be going for, is kind of getting their shots as quickly as they can by cutting in and firing at the goal. If you have Bonilla Garcia in there, if you have Andy Nahar, who's been away from the national team, I guess you call that on sabbatical, maybe?
Yeah, for family reasons, he took a year off from international soccer. He's now back. Andy Nahar, DC fans will remember, he's now an Anderlecht, very dribbly, very creative winger who can sort of cut and stop and start and make you fall over.
Yeah, if they're there, then maybe you're not quite sure what to expect. Again, you got to pay a little bit of attention. And then the other name that I know you were a little bit concerned about is Anthony Lozano.
Yes, I'm not. So he plays for Tenerife in La Liga. I'm not convinced he's going to start because it seems to me like Elise has displaced him as the starting centre forward. But they're all kind of weirdly, Elise, Lozano, and Kyoto are all very similar in that they just go at you. And they're not scared. When they're on the counter, they're not scared of losing the ball, weirdly.
Yeah.
They're just going to go for it. They go for the jugular.
And I think that speaks to like overall what this Honduras team is, which you might see it written as like, oh, it's a veteran team. They've played together for a really long time. It's a bunch of veterans. And I mean, certainly they've got a couple guys who are over 30 who've been there, who've got, over 50 caps. I think Bonet Garcia has 117 according to Wikipedia. You've got a lot of guys who are 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. And so it speaks to like some like steadiness and like experience, but then you've also got that youthful, I'm going to do a step over and I'm going to shoot from 30 yards out and make something happen. And they're kind of, again, it's that bipolar that makes them exciting.
And there's a situation where that just catches the US out, right? And we're like, we find it hard to break them down, and then they catch us on the counter, and then they're even more determined to bunker, and then we can't break them down, and we get, that's the nightmare scenario for Friday night.
Yes, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Before we talk US, is there anything else about Honduras you want to talk about? Anything else that stood out?
I would say the other thing that stood out for me is that they do seem at times, and this is where I go back to, they have those veterans in there, but it's not. They're back five. You know it exactly. It's going to be the same guys every single time.
The only guy I'll guarantee is Maynor Figueroa. Dallas fans will know him.
In the back three.
Any shape. Maynor Figueroa will be in there, and he'll be captain. He'll be wearing number 3.
And then I'd say our best bet is Emilio Izaguirre as the left wing back.
Celtic fans will know
and Brian Beckless as the right back.
Or maybe Andy Nahar. That's an interesting look to see what happens there.
But the point of all that is to say that like you might have those guys in there. Some of those are more probable than others, but it's not that like guaranteed, here's your 5 nailed on, this is how they play.
And here's the weird thing for me as well is that they don't seem as organized
that's
as
my
you
point.
would expect a team that plays so defensive to play.
That's what I mean, is that if you have those 5 who are always there, they know how each other's going to play. They know, Izaguirre is going to step, I'll slide over. Yeah.
The cliche would be a unit.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're defensively well organized as a unit, I think. Yes. And so we did see against Mexico and against Trinidad and against Panama that you have these moments in which Izaguirre just decides, I'm stepping, and sprints 30 yards out. And then the other center back is like, oh, I guess I better go cover. And suddenly they're in a back 4, but they don't mean to be in a back 4, and they're stretched. So you have those moments where they kind of drift and get pulled out a little bit, and that's especially evident on set pieces.
Yes.
That they tend to ball watch. There's a lot of staring at the corner kick taker as the man runs past them, and suddenly Kenwin Jones is wide open to hit a header that is saved, very well saved, but still.
But on the next corner, Mitchell scores.
Exactly.
Same thing. Yeah, so it's a lot of man marking, but not very good man marking.
Yeah, exactly.
Which that may be an advantage for the US on set pieces. Maybe an Omar Gonzalez header, or a John Brooks header, or something like that we could see.
That's my prediction.
Your prediction to John Brooks header?
I'm saying John Brooks goal.
I'm saying Clint Dempsey goal on a set piece
for
the same reason. Okay, but the other thing I noticed is they're also weirdly not that
Hooray,
well
USA's winning 2-0.
They're not that well organised even when everybody's back. Right? They almost rely on safety in numbers as opposed to safety in organisation. Because even if you get dragged out of position, there's still somebody else filling that space anyway because there's like 9 of you behind the ball. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You imagine a 5-4. There's room for someone to like get their positioning slightly wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's not much room still for the opposition to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, boy. All right. Well, lots to be discussed. Lots to talk about when it comes to the United States. Do you want to do that now, or should we get to today's sponsor?
Let's mention today's sponsor before we tell you how the US are going to beat Honduras, hopefully, maybe.
All right. Hopefully, maybe. Well, we've already guaranteed a 2-0 victory, so it's fine.
Today's sponsor is Health IQ. Health IQ wants to give financial rewards to health-conscious people.
That they do, my friend. They have partnered with major life insurance companies to get lower rates for people with a healthy lifestyle. That includes those who are health-conscious, like soccer players, runners, cyclists, weightlifters, swimmers, vegans, and vegetarians. You don't have to be full vegan. You could even be vegetarian. They will still look out for you.
So Health IQ want us to let you know that many soccer players don't realise that they can get a special life insurance rate due to their health-conscious lifestyle. If you are a regular soccer player at any level, you don't have to be in MLS, you don't have to be in USL, even if you just play in a local league, as Taylor and I do, you have a health-conscious lifestyle because you do all kinds of running at least once a week.
Yeah, today I came into the studio and I sat down and we were like watching some tape. I'll go back to tape. And then I got up for a second.
Some new tape?
Yeah, and I was like, why am I sore? And I was like trying to think of ways, like, did I get hit or something? And Daryl's response was like, well, didn't you play soccer for 3 hours last night? And it's like, oh, right, yeah.
You played a 90-minute cup game for Richmond City FC, and then you came to street soccer practice for an hour and a half.
Yes.
That's 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe that's it. So that's the point, is that maybe when you're playing soccer, you kind of don't realize how much work you're putting in, how many miles you're putting on those legs.
I feel like if you entered that information into the Health IQ
qualified,
they'd be like, are you sure? Is this the correct number?
Yeah.
So running when you play soccer makes you health conscious. The question I have that's Health IQ related is, in this US v Honduras game, which player is going to cover the most distance?
Okay.
And I'll warn you that these stats are measurable, right? Someone will have these stats.
Somebody will have these stats. It is difficult. I'm going to go with what I want to be the case, which is I'm going to say Jorge Villafaña.
Jorge Villafaña?
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, you're gambling on Villafaña starting, because it could be DeMarcus Beasley.
Didn't think about that,
okay.
But yes.
You want to stick with Villafaña?
Yeah, why not?
Why will he cover the most ground?
Okay.
Or why will he run the most distance?
Because there are obvious other...
distance, excuse me.
I'm with you. There's obvious other candidates. I'd say Michael Bradley being one, Christian Pulisic being one, and maybe Jonathan Nagbe. Because they're, like attack-minded midfielders, and then Michael Bradley, the one who's going to have to cover a lot of ground.
Yeah.
But I say Villafaña because, as we talked about, there are those areas of vulnerability for Honduras, especially when they do get that defensive shape. They get narrow. It leaves spaces down the channel. And I could see the United States, maybe if it is a certain someone starting at right back who's maybe going to stay home a little bit more, then I could see Villafaña flying down that left wing more often than his counterpart.
So he's going to be up and down, like essentially doing shuttle runs down that left flank, and therefore cover the most distance.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I could even see like he goes up for a corner and then it gets headed clear, and all of a sudden he looks up and sees like Elise at midfield. He's like, "Oh, better get back," and goes flying on back. Yep.
I'm going to say Roger Espinosa.
Ooh, okay.
Sporting KC fans will know him. I remember the game, Honduras versus the United States, the infamous 2013 game. Espinosa overran the United States. He was absolutely everywhere in the way that you wish Michael Bradley had been, right? So we know that he's like capable of covering ground.
Do we know that he's starting? Because I'm not sure that we do.
I'm confident he's starting.
Right, so we're doing the same thing.
The same way that you're confident Villafaña is starting. What I see as well, though, is even if Honduras sit back, they're going to be moving around slightly all the time, right?
Yep.
And I think Espinosa is going to be sort of covering ground in small ways by just shuffling. And then because he's so box-to-boxy, he'll sort of break with Honduras and come back with Honduras. So I think he'll cover the most ground in the end.
All right. So if they do, whichever one does, if they're looking for some life insurance coverage, then they can do so by going to healthiq.com/TSS. The link is in the show notes for that address. They can take a quiz and get a quote.
And a reminder that it's not just professional, international Honduran players who are eligible for lower life
or
insurance
professional
rates.
American players. Thank you very much.
Not just them either. If you play soccer, or even if you run, if you're sort of a casual sort of jogger, as long as you meet the minimum distance requirements, then you will be eligible for a life insurance discount via Health IQ.
So thank you to Daryl Grove for making it so easy for me to get this prediction point correct, because we all know that Jorge Villafaña is going to start and do amazing things in this game. And thank you to Health IQ for sponsoring today's show.
Okay, so shall we get to the United States?
Let's do it.
I don't want to go straight to picking a starting 11. I want to maybe talk about how we think the US should approach Honduras if they present us with that problem of 5-4-1, come at us.
Okay.
Come at me, bro.
I have now, with that in mind, I will say I have done a full 180, not a full 360, a full 180 on this one, because I'm going to say I think Clint Dempsey should start.
Okay.
And I know we're not going like straight into the 11, but I think there are two reasons for this. One, I think three. One, he brings you that veteran like wisdom when it comes to how to deal with CONCACAF opponents. Two, partnered with that is that he knows how to frustrate CONCACAF opponents. He is capable of annoying players, using
I'd say annoy more than frustrate.
Yeah. Well, but like he can do those tricks.
Goad.
Yeah. But, okay, so he can get in people's faces and kind of like give an elbow here. We saw him charge into Felipe, like give him a big old shoulder charge this past weekend. So we know he can do that. But it's also, I feel like he knows when to do the unnecessary step over or the unnecessary flick that will enrage a defender and maybe make them a little bit more likely to kick out, give you that free kick that you need.
Or even, okay, so not just the kick out, but maybe the tempt out to at least try and come and get me.
Right.
Because part of this will be about drawing Honduran defenders out. Okay, yeah.
We're on the same page. It's like we've done this show for a while together. Because, that's my third point, is that he has the creativity and skill to pick apart a defense, but also the knowledge and ability to pull those defenders out and create space for other players.
He also has that classic sort of, we've talked about this before, he is as good as a centre forward in terms of his goal scoring record, but he's also just not hanging on the shoulder of the last defender. He's coming back a little deeper. So he gives you a problem of, do I go and mark him? Do I pass him on to a midfielder? He will occupy that space between Honduras's midfield, Honduras's defence. He will find the spots in there.
And then do we see him playing as like underneath maybe Josie Altidore? Underneath Josie Altidore, who will absolutely start?
Yeah, that's what I see. The downside on that is I think Josie Altidore is more effective maybe when there's someone else ahead of him.
Right.
Like, not ahead of him in terms of starting, ahead of him in terms of height on the field. So, like, if it was Jordan Morris, we would put Jordan Morris, like, up against, right on the Honduras defensive line, and then Josie Altidore could come a little bit deeper and connect passes a bit. And
if we're putting him right on the Honduras defensive line, then we're giving Jordan Morris a solid 12 yards to sprint before he's out of bounds.
That's your argument for why Morris shouldn't start?
Yes, it is. So I mean, amongst the injury concerns is that I think he is best utilized as a late game sub when maybe Honduras is a little bit tired, maybe they start to get a little bit stretched. You can use his pace and physicality. I think Clint Dempsey has that veteran guile and ability that you could maybe use to kind of pick apart the defenses. He'll see things. There was that one touch ball that we both really, really loved this past weekend where he plays like a reverse ball without looking. Just little stuff like that, and especially because he has the existing relationship with both Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore. Yeah. They've played together a couple times at national team level. So I think he can also function really well playing off of them.
And to underline this Jordan Morris thing, think of Jordan Morris, his best moments. They are at pace with like an acre to run into, right? If that Honduras defense is all the way back and the midfield's all the way back, there is, I think you said 12 yards. If there's only 12 yards to run into, I'm going to say 18 yards is the most. He could do something. Like he did do it for Seattle where he pounced on that sort of Perinel back pass. There's only a little bit of space to work with, but it's not going to maximize his efficiency.
No, and that's after Seattle had pressed a little bit and forced New York back and forced them into a turnover. I don't think the United States is going to be doing a lot of pressing. I think they're going to be doing a lot of possessing and slowly passing. Yeah. So I think even then that kind of pressure from Jordan Morris, not as necessary.
Okay, so you're going for Altidore Dempsey to start because you want Dempsey to use his creativity and guile to kind of find holes in Honduras' defense.
But if it's 0-0 with like 30 minutes to go, 35 minutes to go, I would bet all the money that Jordan Morris comes in.
Okay, what about this idea that try as Dempsey might, you can't find your way through the middle, right? We were talking about this in the office before, right? The classic thing with a team like Honduras, they are kind of as well as having a back five, that back five is actually quite compact, right? Their thing is, you are not coming through the middle, we will kick you. You are not coming through the middle, we will defend you, but we will give you the wings.
Yeah. If you're looking at it from like an actual positioning standpoint, if you imagine that 18-yard box, how long it is, then you've still got a decent amount of space on either side before you get out of bounds. That back five is usually still well within the dimensions of the 18-yard box. So you've basically got 5 defenders in maybe 30 yards of space, 40 yards of space. They're very compact. You've got the midfield in front. Absolutely, they're giving you that width.
So do we take the wings maybe and just say, okay, you want to force us to the wings, that's fine. We will put, say, Christian Pulisic on the wings and he will hurt you from there.
I think watching that Mexico game was very helpful for me because that's the question is, do you do what the team wants you to do, which is go wide and then do it well and beat them there?
Or do
you do what they don't want you to do, which is or what they're setting you up not to do, which is go through the middle, try to possess through those bunkered numbers and make of what you can. I think Mexico really tried to go through, and I think you saw what ended up happening, which was a 0-0 result. I think if you go down the wings, that probably is going to be a little bit more fruitful, but I think if you're going to do that, it's got to be quick and it's got to be smart. It can't be that kind of ponderous, I'll pass to the right back, he'll dribble forward a little bit, then he'll pass it outside, it'll work to the left back, he'll dribble forward a little bit. Like it's got to be quick passing, 1 and 2 touch, a lot of people moving over to create numerical superiority, to create those kind of mismatches.
Okay, here's my thesis. This game is all about the big switch.
Yep,
right?
Absolutely.
It's going to be, okay, we're going to start going down the left, and say it's Villafania, and say it's Nagbe, trying to work the ball down the left. Honduras are going to drift that way, right? If you just can't get down there, say, what's his name, Bekeles, is blocking it off and he's got another defender with him. Okay, what you do, Villafania drops it to Michael Bradley. Michael Bradley looks out right, he sees Christian Pulisic, he pings it one time. Suddenly Pulisic has a lot of space on that right wing and he's running against Emilio Izaguri.
Who really likes to try to make plays, is what I've learned from which sometimes works and then more often results in either he gets played out of position or he commits a foul.
Yeah, here's my read on Izaguri. Okay, left back / left wing back, plays for Celtic, looks very good going forward, right? He has a few skills, he really can cross a ball with his left foot, loves to whip in across, kind of dangerous. Not the best or smartest defender. Not horrible, but kind of aggressive. And I think up against Pulisic, I think Christian Pulisic could leave him in the dust. Yeah. He could leave Izaguri slide tackling thin air.
Yeah, I think so. I think also, like,
if you can isolate him, that is.
I don't know if you'll go with me on this one, and I apologize if I offend Scottish or SPL fans, but I would also say that Izaguri plays regularly for Celtic, plays regularly for Honduras, probably not used to going up a class attack like, say, Borussia Dortmund. And I do think that Christian Pulisic has the ability to...
He did play Barcelona this year and Man City.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But I do think Christian Pulisic has the ability to exploit that space and those little gaps that are going to be formed. I think he knows how to play quickly. And I would love to see... maybe Sasha Kleshton or maybe Clint Dempsey drifting over there and combining on some nice little sequences to really exploit the spaces. Or, as you said, use that long ball to get him behind his Aguirre if he starts to drift and ball watch a little bit.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. So as well as just like switching it out to him so that he's got space to run it as Aguirre, there's also the idea of him like sneaking behind Izagirre. If Izagirre starts to drift forward, right, because he's like more attacking minded, right, then Pulisic can sneak in behind him, and then I can see maybe Bradley pinging a ball through over the top for Pulisic to exploit that gap. Because any back five, the gap is usually between the three centre backs and like the outside back, right? There's always the chance of making a gap there.
Yeah. So I think that is definitely an area of opportunity for the United States, and that's where again I think we moved a little bit. That I think a couple weeks ago we both wanted Christian Pulisic as kind of like the starting creative midfielder in the middle. Now I'm okay with him being out wide, and I'm very much and I'm very much okay with Darlington Nagbe being the other wide-ish midfielder.
Yes, he pairs well with Villafaña or Beasley if they're overlapping, right? Because he tends to drift inside, and he does those beautiful sort of 1-2 quick passing thing.
Yes,
and to me, part of this will be don't be ponderous in your passing, United States. Move the ball quickly. Darlington Nagbe does that.
Absolutely. And the other thing Darlington Nagbe does, which you pointed out on the last show, and I now think is incredibly important in this game, is he does that pass and follow.
Yes.
But what that sets you up for is if you're going to pass and follow, if you're going to play that ball in to whomever's in the middle, if it's Michael Bradley or if it's Josie,
into the feet of Josie.
Yeah, or into the feet of Josie. But then you follow, and now, again, you can create those 1-2 situations, those 2v1 situations where then you can kind of find little ways through. And I think that Darlington Nagbe excels at that. He's also very good at cutting inside and leaving space down the channel for Jorge Villafaña to run and then run back and build up that mileage.
Okay, you're sounding more positive than this morning now about how this might work for the United States.
I'm more positive once we talk it out, and I realize that there are options out there. I still think it's going to be a frustrating game overall. And I think it could be a painful game if we don't talk about Honduras' attack and what the United States needs to do there.
Okay, we will in a second, but first, when you say painful, I also think the US might get fouled a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not just like talking about Pulisic going up against Izagirre and him sort of accidentally tackling late.
Yeah.
I'm talking about just they will like concede free kicks by kicking people.
Yep.
Not that Honduras are just, I'm not saying they're dirty, but they are muscular.
Yeah.
Right? It's part of their defensive strategy just to be muscular. I think the US will have a lot of set pieces.
I think so too. But again, I think that is a positive thing. And I think if you go back to their loss, Honduras is at home to Panama, it comes about from a free kick. And before, during, and after the free kick, Blas Perez is instigating the entire time. He's getting people's faces, he's shoving around, he's doing those little things that make you want to foul him. And then they do. And again, that's where I think Clint Dempsey could be important. But I think, if they're going to foul, you then take advantage of that on those set pieces. You get the bodies in the box, you try to take advantage, you try to get an early goal and force Honduras to have to come out a little bit and come at you. Because that is very much what they don't want to do.
Exactly. Okay, so let's start talking about that Honduras attack then. So as we mentioned, I think it's going to be Kyoto on the left.
Yep.
I think Elise in the middle. Maybe Lozano, I think Elise.
Yep.
And then probably Martinez, maybe Najar, maybe Benet Garcia.
Maybe Morales.
Right. Maybe,
Or Martinez, excuse me. Martinez,
So actually, I'm not confident who the right side player will be. But the guys I'm mostly concerned about are Kyoto, who'll be on the left wing, and Elise, who'll be the centre forward.
Yes, I would agree with that.
There's a scary scenario where it's Kyoto left, Lozano centre, Elise on the right.
Yeah, that would be
suddenly
great.
You've got three guys who all want to break at you.
Yes. I think, though, that if we're going to go with that back five-ish scenario, then I think it's probably going to be Elise up top by himself, Kyoto maybe the second farthest forward, maybe Martinez if he's on that right wing, but I think some combination of those two to give you that pace and physicality to hit on the break.
So Kyoto, we talked about his goal scoring, right?
Yep.
The thing he has done multiple times is on the left wing with his right foot, he will step inside and he will bend one from distance, right? We saw him do this for Houston, goal of the week, I think you mentioned, in MLS, and we thought, that's nice.
Yep.
But then we watched him play for Honduras, the national team, did it against Trinidad.
Yep.
Tried it multiple times against Mexico. So we've seen him do it so many times that we know he loves it in an Arjen Robben kind of style.
Yeah.
And we know he can put it in the back of the net.
Yeah.
Beware, United States, do not let Kyoto, who'll wear number 12, do not let him cut inside from the left on his right foot.
Right. And similar, I want to get to what you do with that in a second. Do you have more to say about him?
I just want to say, do you think, for example, this is a thing that Bruce Arena and the coaching staff know about and will warn the US national team about?
I sure hope so, because we're not professional coaches with A licenses. So I'm guessing they've probably watched some tape and figured that one out.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, DeMarcus Beasley, who plays with Kyoto at Club Lova, said, hey, by the way, he does this thing and he's good at it. We should probably not let him do this thing.
And does that affect who you want to start at right back?
Yes, I don't know. I really cannot say for sure. Because I think it does. I think, strangely enough, it makes me want Graham Zusi to start. But I'm also pretty sure that it's going to be Jeff Cameron who starts at right back.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of having to balance what I think might work with what I think Bruce Arena is going to do.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of lost as a result.
Okay, yeah. So for the record, media coverage seems to indicate, in terms of like photos from training sessions and just reports in various places, that Jeff Cameron will start at right back because of the shortage of right backs. Right, Yedlin injured, Lehigh injured, Chandler suspended. Orozco's the other option. Zusi was added to the roster late.
Right,
and we had this conversation off air. Right, Cameron is the more defensive right back and probably the better defensive right back. Zusi is the more attacking right back.
Right,
and you have to decide what you want the most.
Right, and I think this is where it's confusing for me, is because I think of Graham Zusi as I watched Honduras break, the one I mentioned against Mexico. They did a couple other times in that game. And it made sense to me, like, no, you want somebody fast. You want somebody who's fast and can break up that counter.
Yeah.
That points to Graham Zusi, because in my head, Graham Zusi is faster than Jeff Cameron. Might be wrong there. But I would
feels right.
But I would also say that Graham Zusi, if he's in there, it's because you want him getting forward and helping attack.
That would be the point of Graham Zusi, right? To be the overlapping right back to join, say, Pulisic and go 2-on-1 against Izaguri, give him a real headache.
But then the problem there becomes that say Zusi is nominally faster than Jeff Cameron, if you concede that point. It's still nominally faster if you have Jeff Cameron roughly at midfield and Graham Zusi crossing from the end line and then having to get back. He's not going to close 50 yards in 1 second. So that's where it gets a little confusing, because I think Graham Zusi maybe can keep up a little bit, but also not naturally a right back. So maybe then he does bite and falls for the cut inside.
That's the thing for me, is because he's not naturally a right back. He doesn't have the defensive instincts to be able to execute a defensive job, which would be keep Kyoto to the outside, don't let him cut inside. I am all in on Jeff Cameron starting at right back.
And here's what you've just talked me into.
Yeah.
Maybe that is why Jeff Cameron was going to start there in the first place, is because Bruce Arena is aware that they're strong and physical through the middle, and they've got Kyoto, who's pacey and quick and clever. So you put one of your best defenders on right-hand side who's played there before. You put two capable defenders in the middle, one of whom you know from club level.
It's going to be Gonzalez and Brooks, right?
Yeah, one of whom you know is probably the best defender the United States has right now, and then you go with that.
And here's what I think as well. If this doesn't work out, or if, like say it's 0-0 at 60 minutes, we need a win, right? Hashtag get through, whatever the US soccer thing was. Then you can add Graham Zusi. You can take out Jeff Cameron. You could put Graham Zusi in at right back, and that indicates that your right back is going to get forward much more than for the last 30 minutes than the first 60.
If it is 0-0 or 1-1 in like the last, like you say, like 55th minute, my guess would be the three subs you see are Jordan Morris, like we talked about, Graham Zusi for what we've just talked about, and then either Sasha Kleshtin or, and making people's heads explode, Chris Wondolowski. I think those
just
are
extra goal scorer.
Yes, I think so. You bring in a goal scorer, especially because Clint Dempsey, for everything we've said about him, is still, has still missed all that time. He's
played
still
3 games
very early in the season, so maybe you bring him off, you bring on Wondolowski, and you go for it. So I could also see that situation making sense and being wildly frustrating for people, because when you're chasing a game, to bring on Jordan Morris with a hurt ankle, Graham Zusi, and Chris Wondolowski, not going to be popular.
Well, I mean, everyone wants to see Jordan Morris, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
But I can see people being like, why are we changing our right back?
Yep.
But there'll be a good reason. It'll be to add extra width and crossing ability from the right. And it's a gamble, right? You're changing it a bit by making it more attacking down the right.
Because I could even see, like, maybe it's Jeff Cameron who would come off for Graham Zusi. Maybe it's Omar Gonzalez and Jeff Cameron goes to the center back.
Yeah.
But I can just see the snarky tweets now of like United States chasing a goal. Let's take out a center back and bring on a right back. That should do it. So I can see again that frustration, but I can see how that makes sense as well.
Okay, are we comfortable with Gonzalez and Brooks as the centre backs?
I guess we have to be. So sure.
Well, there are other options, right? Walker Zimmerman's there. Orozco's there. Tim Ream is there. Matt Beasley's there.
Beasler would be the one, I think, strangely enough, and he was the one called in last to camp. Just because Zimmerman, we've watched him a couple times for FC Dallas this season, and has gotten lost a little bit at times, been a little bit slow to react a little bit at times, and still tries to make those big play gambles that could be very bad against a fast counterattacking team.
That can be Albert Ellis running behind you.
Tim Ream, I just haven't seen that much of. Orozco, I think, is more of a right back in this team than he is a center back. So I think that leaves Omar or Matt Beasler, and I think Omar is probably the one that would start.
The only thing that worries me is if we're going to be building out of the back, we're going to have like you said, the centre backs are going to have the ball a lot because Honduras is sitting back. Then I like John Brooks with the ball at his feet. I've seen him play balls from the back into strikers' feet, and it's really good, right? That's an exciting thing. Omar Gonzalez, I never quite trust him as much with the ball at his feet.
Okay, so we shave Jermaine Jones' head. We say he's a new player. We put him at center back.
Stretch him to 6'4"?
And we're good. Yeah. What could go wrong?
He could lose a lot of head.
And then Jurgen Klinsmann says, I already tried that. Not the shaving head and the stretching part, but the center back part.
So time has come, Taylor.
Yes.
Do you want to try picking an 11?
I think so. Have we covered everything? Do we feel comfortable? I think.
The one extra note I had is the goalkeeper.
Yes. That's another key point.
He can be a little bit dropsy with shots from distance.
Yes. He's 39, I think, or 37. Right? He's 37 years old, so he's up there. But so too are our goalkeepers.
So Escobar, we think will be the goalkeeper for Honduras.
Yes, and he spilled a couple shots against Mexico. Did the same against Trinidad. Failed to cleanly take a couple of them. Came out a little bit too readily, and then spilled a corner. So I feel like maybe you test him early and often and force him into making some saves, especially with the number of bodies that will be in front of him. Yeah. He might see it late or might get some deflections. We saw a lot of deflected goals for teams playing against Honduras.
I'm a little wary of suggesting shooting from distance. It just seems like the last last chance saloon of goal scoring opportunities is to shoot from distance.
That is true. It's I don't know what that line is. I really don't. Between
when to do it.
Because it seems like if you're shooting from distance with time and space, we'll then take another touch and dribble closer and then shoot. Yeah. But then also, if you're shooting from distance with turning with your back to goal and then firing without looking, also not ideal.
What if we define distance from distance as between the midfield and the defence? So if you've got all the midfielders and all the defenders in front of you, then you're probably 30-something yards from goal, right? Maybe pushing 40. Maybe that's too far. But if you can get in behind the midfield and you've still got the back five, then it's worth having a go. If it's a first-time shot from Clint Dempsey from 23 yards.
All right, you heard it here first. Honduras concedes a set piece. United States scores off a John Brooks header. Honduras gets a little bit stretched. Clint Dempsey scores from 25 yards out. We both get our prediction.
There we go.
Done and done. And with that, let's get to our what we think the U.S. lineup will be.
Okay, so from what I've seen, Tim Howard in goal.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, Bingham is in for Guzan, but he's not going to play.
Nope.
Nick Romando's not going to start ahead of Tim Howard.
Nope.
Tim Howard starts this game in goal.
Yep.
His adductor stays in one piece. Everybody's happy.
I think so. Yes. Then I think we talked about the center backs already, Gonzalez and Brooks.
Yep.
We talked about the right back. We think that's probably going to be Jeff Cameron. That leaves left back. I'm inclined to say Jorge Villafana. I think he'll probably start one game. Beasley will start the other. I think Villafana starts this because the United States is going to be looking to go at Honduras at home.
And the weird thing is, despite DeMarcus Beasley's history of being a winger for 15 years before he was a left back, Villafana is actually the more effective attacking player, which is odd, right?
Yeah, I mean, age.
I feel like Beasley's value as a winger was often that he was hardworking and made sure to do a decent defensive job. That was part of his value, right? Whereas Villafana's value as a fullback is that he gets forward, he's great with those 1-2s, provides something in the attack.
Yep.
Okay. I like the balance as well, one more attacking left back and one more stay-at-home right back. Fair?
Yes.
Okay.
So really, in fact, I would say I feel pretty confident about most of this starting 11 except for one spot.
Okay.
So I'll take the easy one.
We're confident with the strikers, right? We think Altidore and Dempsey. Okay, so that leaves 4 midfielders in some combination.
And how about if I just go ahead and say 3 and then you say one more? Because I'll say Nagby and Pulisic, I think out wide. I think Michael Bradley obviously in there, which leaves one more midfielder. Yeah, which leaves one more. Not necessarily as an empty bucket 4-2-2-2 because that does not work very well. So I think it would be almost more like a 4-1-3-2.
That's what I think. 4-1-3-2. Bradley is the one, the defensive midfielder. 3 attacking midfielders ahead of him. Nagby on the left, as you said. Pulisic on the right, we think, which I'm kind of excited about. And then it all is about who is that number 10, right? So your options are Sasha Kleshton, Alejandro Bedoya, Kellen Acosta, who would be less of a number 10 and more of a sitting next to Michael Bradley, but also running forward.
And Sebastian Lletget is the same, yeah.
I honestly don't know.
I don't know either.
When I say I don't know who I prefer, and I don't know who I think it's going to be.
I think I can narrow it down to 2,
okay,
would be my guess. And I would say the first is Sasha Kleshton. For all the criticism we've had of him, I am inclined to believe that he's been kind of played out of position in New York, and he's been played, even when he is in kind of a position that he's familiar with, it's still a new formation, and then when he is moved back in there, it's when they're transitioning because they have to get a goal. And so he's probably not that comfortable and has not looked that great as a result.
Yeah.
Maybe you bring him into camp, you play him where he's more familiar, where he's more confident, and he starts to look like that confident Sasha Kleshton that we were both very pumped about, not even a year ago. So I could see
September 2016 is when we pumped.
So I could see that. And then the other
Benny
likely one,
not an option.
Sadly. So then the other one is Alejandro Bedoya, and
we always forget.
We always forget Alejandro Bedoya,
and then he's always in there. Why do we forget him? Is there something about him that we forget? Is it because he does simple things well and we don't appreciate it enough?
I'll say a couple things. I'll say number one, I legitimately don't think I could tell you what his best position is, because is it like...
I can tell you it's not defensive midfield against Brazil.
But he's played there. Is it like as a number 8? Is it as a number 10? Is it out wide? Like, he kind of has done all these different things for the United States that it's tough to really get a read on Alejandro Bedoya. So, and I think he's not really... like the most glamorous of names. I think for a while he was like up there because he was one of the few Americans still playing at a high level in Europe. Now he's back with Philly, and so I think he and that's fine. That's great for him.
He's here for the first time.
Excuse me. Yeah, now he's with Philly, which is great for him and his family. But it's still like it doesn't make him like the sexiest of names when you're throwing it on there, and he's been there before, so it has that feel of like, oh, really? We're still going with Bedoya, and it becomes almost unfair because it's not like he's done anything wrong, but it's just like, oh yeah, he's still there. That's fine. It kind of becomes Kyle Beckerman before everybody fell in love with Kyle Beckerman.
I think that he is so experienced and so like has no obvious deficiency. Like, he can keep the ball moving, he can dribble, he can shoot from distance, he can cross, right? He can do all these things. I think maybe he gets the nod. And I also, the thing I've just realised, when you talked about the not having a definite position as a downside, I actually quite like the idea of we can start with, say, Nagbe on the left, Bedoya in the middle, Pulisic out right, and then like maybe for a little stretch you can switch two of those guys. Like maybe then Nagbe comes in the middle, Bedoya goes out left, or Bedoya goes out right and Pulisic comes in the middle. Even if it's like a permanent switch for 5 minutes, or if it's just a drift of the 3 attacking midfielders moving around, pulling Honduran defenders all over the place, getting them a bit more confused, I think I could get on board with that.
All right.
So his versatility works in our favour in that way.
So I'm with you. I think I'm leaning towards Benny Feilhaber. With all that said, I'm still leaning towards Benny Feilhaber. I'm leaning towards Alejandro Bedoya. I also wouldn't be surprised if it's Sacha Kljestan. But then I'm not going to be angry if we're totally wrong. If it is Cameron at center back and Zusi at right back, or if it's Pulisic inside and Alejandro Bedoya on the right. Like, I'm not going to be really angry for most possible options.
Okay, speaking of being angry or being happy, like say you watch the first 15 minutes, right? And outside of the US scoring, what will be the things that you want to see that will make you think, oh, they know what they're doing, I'm in on this, I'm going to enjoy this? And what will be the things that make you think, oh no, this is not going to go well?
I think...
I'm aware I'm putting you on the spot. So
No, it's fine. I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. I think that I won't mind Michael Bradley dropping deep to pick up the ball, necessarily.
It's not my favorite thing.
But what I mean when I say dropping deep is not dropping between or behind the center backs, as we've seen him do, but kind of come back like within like 10 yards of them, but still further forward, and it becomes that kind of triangle. And he can either get it and play it and distribute it to the other center back quickly, and then we can move it, or he can turn and play it forward. What I don't want to see is Michael Bradley jog all the way back, get the ball between the center backs, and do that kind of turn on the ball and look around and then play it laterally to another center back. Because now all of a sudden we've pulled one midfielder out. Now Alejandro Bedoya is maybe alone in the middle, or Sacha Kljestan. Then maybe Clint Dempsey has to drop, and suddenly we're kind of spread all over the place.
Yes. Okay, I'm 100% with you. Yeah, because that's the key. Like, I always used to not like seeing Bradley come and take the ball off the centre backs because, as you said, it takes a man out of midfield. And suddenly we have one less midfielder to pass to, and your centre backs are just standing there like shop window donuts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it is that thing of when he like is facing them and receives it, and then turns around and like everything slows down. If he's just coming and like playing quick 1-2s with them, or quickly switching it out to a fullback, or turning to another midfielder quick, so it's all about the pace of play, right? So yeah, I'm okay with Bradley collecting the ball off the centre backs if the pace of play is fast enough.
Yeah. Really, though, I'll say like there's not much, and I'm making this like intentional decision. This is not how I usually am with games, but I'm going to say like I'm going to really try to withhold judgment for those first 15 minutes. Okay. I'm not going to get too excited outside of the United States scoring, but I'm not going to get too depressed either outside of the United States conceding. Either one of those things will require extreme emotions.
Yeah.
But in between, there's not much that I'm going to be like, yep, we figured it out. It's going to be golden. But there's also not much that I'm going to be like, oh, this is terrible. It's horrible. But that would be a worrying sign that the United States already doesn't have ideas. And more worryingly than that is that they don't have any ideas coming into it. It's not – because in those 15 minutes, if Michael Bradley is dropping back, then that points to there wasn't a plan for him to – pick the ball up and play it diagonally into the channel, and then Bedoya comes over and Dempsey drops in where Bedoya was, and then they switch. Like, there's no game planning that's happened. It's just sort of like, well, that other thing we were going to try maybe didn't work, so now Michael's coming back, and we're going to figure it out from there.
Okay.
It points to ideas either not having been formed or not having worked within 10 minutes.
All right, so speaking of ideas, I noticed we picked our 11, and it seems to coincide with a lot of what we've been hearing about, Jeff Cameron will play right back, that kind of thing, right? And we're assuming, for example, that Darlington Nagbe will play left midfield because Fabian Johnson's injured, and then Nagbe's been playing there for Portland, so it just makes sense. Okay. But I wonder, like, for a second, just blow it up and have some blue sky thinking, what could be like a weird setup that the US could come out with that we didn't see coming?
I mean, a variation on like the 3-4-2-1 or 3-4-1-2.
Everyone's doing it these days.
Yeah, everyone is doing it these days.
And Arena said he favours a back four, but the personnel he selected gives him the option to play a back three. And there's a chance maybe he just says, all right, we're just going to like for like matchup.
I'm going to add that I'm pretty sure he said, clearly I favor a back four, which is very... And I think that's what we keep seeing is the other part of why it's like tough for us to imagine experimentation, is because... I feel like so many previews or so many articles about Bruce Arena have been written with the ending line of like, but in the end of the day, Bruce is Bruce, and he's not going to overcomplicate it, and it's going to be simple, and there's going to be a back four.
Okay, so what else could we?
So that's one. I could see the back three.
Well, okay, I mean we can't really though, right?
Yeah, no.
So we assumed two forwards, right? We assumed Altidore and Wood to begin with. Then we're thinking Altidore and Dempsey. What if Bruce Arena decides? How about we sort of really confuse this Honduras back five by only giving them one actual striker and the rest of them are creative midfielders?
3-6-1.
3-6-1. 3-6-1. 4-1-4-1, right? Say it's back four, Michael Bradley, then four midfielders, then a striker.
Well, okay. But
that means no Clint Dempsey, right? It means two central midfielders.
See, I don't know. Because this is where you get into the idea that Bruce Arena thinks maybe formations are stupid. And like, couldn't it also just be a 4-1 with 4-1-4-1 with Michael Bradley and then Benny Feilhaber, or God, I keep doing it, or Alejandro Bedoya. I really want Benny to be there. Alejandro Bedoya and Clint Dempsey as your midfield too.
Yeah.
So like,
and
so
I think
it could well be that.
Would agree with what you said.
Yeah. So the other one I could see that could be slightly interesting would be a 4-2-3-1, but
like
really
Acosta alongside.
Acosta or Leggett or somebody like that. That's maybe a wrinkle, but again, that to me seems a little bit more cautious. That seems like if you're going to do that, that's something you do say, oh wait, to Panama, where you really want to like bunker and make sure you don't get anything wrong in those first couple minutes, and then you play for the win in the second. That's where something like that makes a little more sense.
Okay. Oh, speaking of Panama, worth reminding, just in case anyone hasn't been keeping up, maybe you only like parachuted into Total Soccer Show and US Soccer for this game, Jermaine Jones is suspended for this game. There will be no Jermaine Jones against Honduras. He's on the roster. He'll be available against Panama.
And Timmy Chandler as well for the same reasons.
But he's not even on
the roster. But again, it goes back to that kind of right back crisis that we have there, because we went from having 4 to having, or 5 to having 1, essentially.
Okay, any other business before we get onto the TSS scouting network?
I don't think so, other than that this is why I love doing this show, because I went from being like kind of optimistic to being a little bit depressed about this game, because it was like, I just don't see, because there was no ready-made answer for how do you break down a back 9. But I feel like we have some ideas, and I have faith that the United States, knowing that they need to get a result, I would say this is the game they need to win, even if Panama is maybe a little bit more likely. It's still Panama on the road, and that's the Panama team that beat Honduras.
Can I make one final prediction about how the US scores? Here's a thing I think could happen. We talked about the Honduran counterattacks, right? And how like Kyoto and Elise, they like to sort of run at you directly. I could honestly see Elise backing himself, because what happens is he goes forward and it's sort of the left winger Kyoto and the right winger, let's say it's Martinez, they break as well, right? So they all break at the same time, midfielders start coming with them. I could see at least running at John Brooks thinking, the counter's on, and John Brooks just stepping through him, right? Knocking him down, taking the ball. Honduras are running like towards the US in the wrong direction. Brooks splits them with a pass and sends like Clint Dempsey and Josie Altidore through on goal. So essentially,
thank you for that.
A counter. You know what I'm saying? They try and counter-attack us. Centre-back just says no, and you have it back instead, and away we go.
I'm slightly saddened that it took 53 and a half minutes thereabouts. I'm not sure where we are when it comes to adding the music. But to make that point, that the times that we did see Mexico get good opportunities playing through the middle, it was because one of their center backs went on a run.
Yes.
And I could also see that happening occasionally. That would also be a positive sign, I think, is if the center backs, rather than just staying next to each other and passing back and forth, if one of them does have that confidence, I'm going to guess it would be John Brooks, to dribble maybe 20, 25 yards forward, get past that first wave of Hondurans, and now you've got a little bit more of a favorable like numbers lineup, and then you can maybe see what else you've got there. So I wouldn't mind seeing the center backs move forward either in those first 45 to 60 minutes. Okay, we will of course be in studio to watch the game. We'll do a quick take, hot take, and then a full review of the USA's glorious victory over Honduras. It's going to be, let's definitely promise the quick take, hot take. Okay. Because that game is at 7:30 Pacific time is what it's scheduled for. Yeah. Might be closer to 8 o'clock Pacific time. I saw 10:50 Eastern. Right, which puts us at an 11 o'clock start time here, which means Quick Take, Hot Take show at the earliest is out at what, like 1:30 in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
So, and we both have what a commitment at like 8 or 9 the next morning.
Yep. We have like a friendly tournament to play at 8 or 9 in the morning. We have the Richmond Kickers Saturday evening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying there's no time in between to do it.
Yeah. So I'm saying we'll definitely have a Quick Take, Hot Take episode out.
All right. The game again is Friday night. We think 10:30, but actually 10:50 Eastern PM on Fox Sports 1. All right. Shall we close with 3 updates from the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network? These are the exciting young players that we have our subscribers keep an eye on.
Yes,
Would you allow me to start?
Sure.
First scouting report comes from Keith Kalmbach. He is scouting Federico Valverde, a.k.a. Swervy Valverde, the 18-year-old...
Swervy Verdi, sir.
I thought it was Swervy Valverde.
He's gone Swervy Verdi this time around.
Okay, we'll go with what Keith says then. Swervy Verdi, the 18-year-old Uruguayan midfielder for Real Madrid Castilla. Keith says, Swervy Verdi, I say Swervy Valverde, his Castilla team beat Zamudio 1-0 last Saturday, and Valverde was at the centre of the action in the second half. Still no goals or assists, but he did do a sublime job distributing the ball. Not too shabby, says Keith.
Up next, we've got DJ Ringus scouting Levi Garcia, the 19-year-old Trinidadian winger for AZ Alkmaar, or AZ, as your people and the Dutch would say. Levi has been getting consistent minutes for AZ over the past couple weeks. He started against Feyenoord and made a substitute appearance against ADO Den Haag. He was then also included in Trinidad and Tobago's 26-man squad for their upcoming World Cup qualifiers against Panama on Friday and Mexico on Tuesday, both of which I believe are at home.
Guy Jedwab is scouting Serge Gnabry, the 21-year-old German forward for Werder Bremen. Guy says that Serge is the 5th highest goal scorer, aged 21 or under, in all of Europe, and there's a lot of ink currently being spilled about the shooting star of the Bundesliga, which, Guy says, he assumes is mostly just to tweak sad Arsenal fans who wish they convinced him to stay.
Well done. Well done, Guy. Yeah, nicely done there with the tweaking. And well done to DJ and Keith for those scouting reports. Thank you to everyone who continues to send in those lovely scouting reports.
And thank you to everybody who supports the Total Soccer Show with a monthly subscription. You can do so at totalsoccershow.com/subscribe. When you do, we send you a player to scout for the TSS Scouting Network. Thank you.
Thank you.
6 thank yous.
Yeah.
All right, Taylor.
Right? Yes. Numbers, yes. Mm-hmm.
Taylor, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Thank you.
There was an inhale there. I wasn't sure what was happening next.
Well, I was going to say that there'll be no new show on Thursday because this was a big preview. We actually put a lot of work into the show, right? Watching a lot of Honduran tape or YouTube.
We've been here for more hours than I would like to admit. I'll say that much.
But we're also, Thursday night, we're doing our live trivia show in Richmond at Penny Lane pub, downtown at 5th and Franklin. If you're in Richmond, if you're within driving distance, which I put at 1,000 miles, it is 7 to 9 p.m. at Penny Lane.
Says the guy who doesn't drive.
Thursday, March 23rd. It's like 10 blocks, right? Thursday, March 23rd. We're hoping we'll be able to put that out as a live show as well.
Yep. At least some of it. Maybe not the full 2 hours.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Edited highlights.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Taylor. Until next time, thank you again.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again after USA Honduras. You gotta slice it.